Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Game of the Max and episode 23 of our Hearts of Iron 4 Old World Blues Enclave Redux mod. So, in the last episode, our Slanters, our little raccoon people, they managed to make peace with the mutants in the Grand Canyon. We sent the governor of the Slanters in there, and we found out that they were FEV experiments, which made sense. And they were originally from Dayglow, and yeah, they it was a super well flushed out, just little extra piece to the mod that I really appreciated. I thought it was a really cool thing that they did. um we are continuing down our focus tree for the nuclear defense operations command. We've got this little bit to do here, we've got these little bits to do here, and then we've got the stuff over here to do. Once we win our war with Mexico and we go and we own everything, that's when we will start to just instant do our focuses. We're not there just yet. I actually was looking before I started the recording, and Mexico has almost 700 divisions, anywhere between 452 and 700. We're sitting at 280. Uh, Mexico's sitting at 68, and Canada has the most at 519. So we may have to try to boost our Canadian guys up, because I'm gonna have to keep building some units. Probably, I did say once I got some army experience, I will be building a cavalry group, and then when the Slanters are available, I'll build a Slanters group. So there are some stuff that is coming. Oh, we do have two events to read, which I'll click and we'll read through these real quick. We'll support sanitation really fast. I'm just gonna scroll through here and see if I didn't click on something in the last episode. Power up all the power grids. Construct all that need to be constructed. Hold another theory so I can start to get more army experience. And I said I wasn't going to do this anymore, but I'm going to do some of the, because they're 10, I'm going to do these to get more out of Canada, because Canada is going to be our big fight for us. And then do Gunderson Ranch or Argek. All right. A pre-war survivor, one of our main focuses in the Divide has been excavating and restoring key command and control facilities. One of them was the missile command bunker on the far west end of the facility. It was heavily locked, and it seems our pre-war codes were unable to open the place up. Of course, that wasn't going to stop our engineers that were going to place demo charges and rebuild the door afterwards. So imagine our surprise when the door opened and inside out stepped a ghoul in a Laz 009 general's overcoat and calling himself Martin Ritzleff, commander of Joint Hopeville Ashton Base. Seems he saw the U.S. uniforms and ghouls within our ranks and decided to emerge from isolation, and none too soon as he was contemplating suicide. Of course, we checked our records, and soon enough, this same general was the overall commander of the missile base and had Joint Command of Defense for Southern California. He was asking to be fully reinstated as a commander, citing his knowledge on pre-war tactics. He also pointed out he saw his country burn in flames, and now that it is backed by God, he wants to fight for it once again. Welcome aboard, Commander. We get General Martin Restleff as a commanding officer. Hamlin's Ordnance, located between Meade and Memphis, Nebraska, at the Nebraska Ordnance Plant, served the purpose of producing bombs and other ordnance for the Air Force. Prior to the Resource War, the installation solely produced ordnance for the F-76 fighter jet, but would shift to ordnance for the A-15 Leopard with its introduction in 2060. The air plant would soon become rather important as one of the main facilities where the bombs used on the B-54 bombers were produced, making it a key asset to the Air Force. This would in turn make it a key target for the Chinese when the bombs fell, the plant being hit by several direct hits, which left numerous buildings flattened or in smoke and husk. In the era after the Great War, the air plant was taken over by Henry Wilford and the Lincoln Compact, an alliance of settlements in southern Nebraska who sought to bring back the state of Nebraska. After seeing history books about the state across southern Nebraska, Lincoln used the air plant to make landmines and rockets for anti-air and anti-tank rifles to build up their armed forces in their mission to restore the state of Nebraska. With the Lincoln Compact removed from the air plant, we've restored Nebraska's ordnance plant back to active service. allowing ordnance to once more delivered to American aircraft. We even modified M45 bombs to be used by vertibirds using post-war advancements developed out west. Finally, some firepower for our birds give a boost to factory output and cast presence. Very nice. Ashton Air Force Base. The Ashton Air Force Base was the Air Force command, or of the Air Force component of the Commonwealth Ballistic Defense Complex. Tasked with providing targeting and launch data for the missiles in the base, as well as maintaining the base in what is technically an unstable region. The base remains in better shape than the Army side, largely due to the more technical side of the Air Force operations having greater security. Thankfully, no one managed to activate the launch sequences that might have caused some problems. The strange underground readings have only gotten worse with the more sensors we activate. One or two malfunctioning is one thing, and some misreading are to be expected of age. But every last one of them, we've even installed new ones, and they're reading the same thing. There's something down there, and it's not mole rats. Something burrowing underground beneath what is our sole nuclear base in the region presents a huge security concern. There appears to be a place where these burrows are close to the surface and the rest, and it might benefit us if we dig down there and find out what exactly is down there. Engineers have pulled some excavation equipment, but are waiting orders from higher. Find out what's going on down there. Oh, do you guys know what's about to happen? I know what's about to happen. We gotta wait for them to be secured. So let's start doing... let's start doing Navarro. It did pop up that I land leased some stuff up to the Dominion of Canada. Yeah, I sent some stuff when I was off screen. Might do the same for down here, but I wish I could see what they need for their stockpile. But a new species joined the ranks of freedom, sort of. The Jaffa, as the Slanters are calling them, have a cultural language and lifestyle so alien in our own that it might be decades, possibly even a century, before they're able to be treated as equals. In no part to the machinations of segregationists, but it's like trying to bring a caveman into the modern. It's like trying to bring a caveman to the pre-war era. Their culture is based around internecine tribal warfare, hunting and gathering, and there is clearly some phobia of modern technology. Thankfully, the Slanters are being aided by the followers, who have even gotten a few Slanters to join their ranks. Well, this isn't the followers' first rodeo with dealing creatures like the Jaffa. This is their biggest challenge to date. It'll be a tall order for the Slanters and the followers to try and bring these little savages up a few epochs to the modern era. Sadly, it won't likely ever complete in our lifetime. Even Roll Olsen laminates that it might be his great-great-great-grandchildren who will finally see the Jaffa able to exist in modern society. But if anyone can do it, the Slanters are up to the task. They haven't failed us yet. No, they haven't. Gets the event, The Caves. Power grids. Ooh. This is what I'm hoping it is. The Thunder over the Pacific. The discovery of Chinese ghouls have brought forth talk that maybe quite possibly China survived as well. The mere existence of the enclaves gives credence to that thought, and our knowledge of our secret past, our dark past, means that it's quite possible they will have less than good intentions. We hope to play them off until word returned from one of our trade ships docked in Hawaii. In the harbor was docked a large sailboat, and it was flying the flag of China. Nothing happened between the two, though the captain reports of a stairs between their sailors and ours. Me and, of course, our trade ship flew the flag of the reunited states. The ships were soon underway without incident, but word got out and is spreading like wildfire. Many have raised a petition and funds for an expedition across the Pacific to see if maybe, just maybe, China survived. Several issues with such an expedition are being addressed, but the most pressing issue is most of us don't actually know Chinese. Thank God for the Shi. Showing we can bring a robocode translator. Or we got other issues. Thank God for the Shi. The expedition begins. Might as well use them while they're here, so. Protest erupts over the death clause. Of course, citizens across the wasteland have taken to the streets in protest following shocking revelations that the government has been quietly sheltering and protecting broods of intelligent death clause. Large demonstrations have broken out in major urban centers, with protesters carrying signs and chants of "No monsters among us" and "Protect Americans First" echoed through the streets. In response, the president issued a brief statement acknowledging the program's existence, but emphasizing that every precaution has been taken to protect civilians and that the creatures pose no immediate threat to the population. Despite assurances trusted in the government, intentions is wavering, and tensions remain high as citizens demand the complete dismantling of the program. For now, the futures of the death clause remain uncertain as public pressure mounts and officials scramble to address the backlash. We knew this was coming. Leaves 5% stability and 5% legitimacy. Now, well, they can kiss mine. Let's see. Bringing our war support up. It's a massacre. Oh no. You never like to read that when you click onto something. The engineering team broke into a series of tunnels before they were attacked by dozens of reptilian mutants that slaughtered them wholesale. Base security responded before they themselves were overrun as hundreds of the things flooded out of the tunnels we had dug. We would have seen a loss of everyone at the base had they not retreated upon reaching the sunlight. It seems they have an aversion to bright light. The base has been evacuated for its response and emergency units moving in. We're still getting reads from the seismic sensors and it's indicating a lot more movement underneath than before. It appears we've struck a mutant hornet's nest. Due to the nature of the nuclear weapons stored at the base, heavy ordnance is ruled out, meaning the only way to get rid of these things is the hard way. Given that they easily wiped out a squad of power armored infantry, it's not going to be easy to remove them. Prepare demo teams will burn them out, or do we have our own mutants for this? Lose 31 manpower, disaster in the divide, don't we have our own mutants for this? And here we go. To those to whom will lead the base. The name Navarro. As we continue to build and expand on Navarro, a certain disagreement has cropped up among some branches that is causing some contention among the officer rank, leading to the construction. It threatens to delay everything. The central issue is who's going to take lead on the base, who will be the primary garrison, and who will have the base name reflect. With all in our agreement to keep the name Navarro, the Army wants to call it a fort, the Navy a base, the Air Force and Marines have chimed in as well. Thankfully, work is continuing on schedule for the time being, but it's only a matter of time before the officers start playing politics and screwing each other over to try and gain a lead. For Granite, who normally was above such matters, being he was the President of the United States, saw Navarro's importance in American history as too significant. He's not going to let some petty squabble over naming conventions ruin its reconstruction. During one heated debate among the officers and was meant to settle the matter, Granite walked in on the meeting, much to the alarm of every officer in the room, though since they were all at attention, the room fell silent. Grant looked over them and spoke calmly on his decision. You do joint base, camp, Air Force base, naval base, fort, or just leave it as it is. Just leave it as it is. Oh, that actually says joint base Navarro. I don't know. I do like that artwork. You know what? We'll change it to joint base Navarro. So everybody can be there. Restore the underground. A little bit better. Not better than what we have, but for our people. Research the urban plasma rifle, though we probably will never get to it to use in war. Disaster in the divide. The situation of the base has only gotten worse. The things that merge at night, invertebrate flights and security perimeters have barely been able to contain them. What's more, they can easily tunnel through the ground, and our soldiers are given over to calling them tunnelers. During the daylight hours, we're able to send in automated units to scout, but even the mighty sentry bot is being taken down by just a handful of these things. Thankfully, they can't fly, and our vertebrates have been providing overwatch, and more are on their way. As of now, the situation is stable. What was not stable was the military staff, and Granite put forth his plan to have the Slanters take control of the situation. It wasn't any of the general staff was prejudiced against the Slanters. It was that the Divide mutants were known to take down a sentry bot with numbers and ease. Even the Slanters called in were a little hesitant after reading the reports. Yet, as the meeting drew on, more and more commanders came over to the President's sides. The Slanters were well adapted to fighting in enclosed environments, and their heightened senses could be of an advantage underground. With further push, thanks to Granite Ruthless charisma, the decision was made. All that was left was to gather the strike force. Prepare to face the might of the American military. Gets the last thing anyone expected. Oh. Open my tanks. Ooh, the trial of Samuel Cook. The trial of Samuel Cook was relatively quick, but it was very close to becoming a failure. Cook happily pleaded guilty on all charges and seemed to take pride in them. The cornerstone of his defense seemed to be that since all of his actions were taken against the NCR, and that the NCR no longer existed, he did nothing wrong. Further, while he may have spoken out against the Enclave, he never outright ordered any actions against American citizens, and that all those were handled by low and ranking members of their own initiative. Further, in an impassioned speech, he spoke about how the Enclave was just going to execute him and would prove they were worse than the NCR ever was, regardless if he was found guilty or not. The one flaw in his defense is that while under certain legal review, that might be true, the judge decided to suspend the case on those grounds, but that a greater legal review was needed to determine the validity of the claims. Given the state of the judicial system right now was not the time for such a review, he ordered Samuel Cook to be frozen in cryostasis in Fort Sierra until further legal review can be applied, likely after the nation was up and running, which the judge estimated would be in 100 years or so. Samuel Cook was dragged out of the courtroom kicking and screaming. Well, that was unexpected. Thank you, Sealand. Trying to see, hoping we start to get these actually in as our, get some infantry fighting vehicles. Improves centrometric radar. And that's the last of the radars right there. The caves. It was once Arizona's one mining complex has become a new home for the Slanters, as well as a training area for Slanter scouts and cavalry. It seems that the reality of modern American technology mixed with the hardness of the Slanters' biology has done well for their numbers, though they still pale in comparison to humanity in the post-World War. Many pioneering spirited Slanters have made their way to the Grand Canyon and are even assisting the EPA and the nascent Park Service in cleaning up and securing the Grand Canyon, hunting death claws, and keeping track of the Murloc nest and migrations. The proximity to the Colorado River as well has opened a new palette for the Senators who are discovering the joy of fishing, something that was hard to do in Nevada and all but impossible in the Mojave near the tunnels. The area around the Arizona 1 complex has been designated as an official census place, making it a community in our regrowing country. A third home for America's smallest patriots gets a new era for the Grand Canyon. Western Grand Canyon changes name to Grand Canyon, and Eastern Grand Canyon changes name to the Caves. The new era for the Grand Canyon. Director Corliss has its writing that the Slanter cavalry units will patrol along, looking for Jaffa who stray too far from the caves. EPA security units are going to be manning the remaining nuclear waste sites, and he thanks the members of the Slanter National Guard for assisting in cleaning up and patrols around the canyon itself. The Grand Canyon itself. Work is still underway clearing out the nuclear waste dumps, which Corliss eliminates were larger than recorded, but that he was not surprised. The real bottleneck is disposal of the waste, but that's neither here nor there, as the unofficial motto of the EPA at this point is, if it's an easy job, everyone would be doing it. For now, the Grand Canyon is still designated a disaster cleanup site, and it won't be another 50 years given current estimates before it'll be safe as a tourist attraction once more. It's going to be a near 100, but the Slanter patrols in the area are keeping deadly monsters at bay, and he noticed that the caves seem to be making money off in selling Murloc meat. Well, I guess it worked out, and then it changes the name. We're sitting here. I don't have enough army experience. Which,
that's a no one. Enclave here.
You are already going to make way for the Royal Guard. We've read these multiple times before, so we'll just bump through them there. Advanced power systems. Do Assaultron Mark IIs. Royal Commandos, Royal Dragoons. The expedition begins. The route to Hawaii was calm and without incident. Only a few sightings of ghoul whales and krakens to keep gun crews alert and responsive. Near the islands, however, radar picked up several large unidentified ships moving at a high speed. Too high for the vessels of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Our captain has reported seeing several ships flying the flag of China and are closing in. They don't appear to be on an intercept course, however, the image of our captain sent indicates they are not civilian vessels. Keep me posted gets event flashpoint. And Ride of the Royal Dragoons. The entropy of super mutants. If there's one thing in the wasteland that is certain, it's that some species that inhabit the wasteland are doomed to die out eventually. Chief among them are super mutants. Sure, they are immortal, but they are sterile. Their numbers are limited. They've gotten some boost from the war, and there's a large population in Texas and room and more out in the Midwest. But aside from dipping people into FEV, their days are limited. Limited in that it will likely take a few hundred years, even with the Army using the Mariposa Corps on the front lines, given how effective they are. At the end, it might only be a few dozen super mutants left, the last of their kind, doomed forever alone. Further, dipping most Slanters into FEV is a really bad habit of creating the dumb, violent ones, not the more intelligent ones that function in society. While some more tyrannical members of society are overjoyed at this remains a question of super mutant sterility and whether it's possible to fix it. Not that many people tried. Rumors that the master broke down when he realized this, and allegedly a super mutant scientist named Ekrel desperately tried to cure it before being killed by the Midwestern Brotherhood. Now here we stand at the same precipice as before, with the same question in our hand: do we try, or do we cast the super mutants into entropy? What more is the master couldn't? How the hell can we? We're America. Let's give it a shot. Wouldn't hurt to try, or let's not cause an upheaval. Well, they're part of us just the same as the Slanters. If the Slanters were impotent, we would try to help them, in my opinion, or any of them. Which begs the question: why would they become impotent when, like the Slanters, for example, they're super mutants? They never did. They're able to produce in the Warrens and stuff. So, oh, excuse me. Last thing anyone expected, Rel Olsen had reservations striking up an alliance with the Enclave, but they had been true to their word and even treated them as equals, at least in law. It was impossible for every human to see them as anything but mutated raccoons. However, they had done well to the Slanters and even cured his illness, allowing him to continue living and leading his people. With representatives from the army arriving requesting assistance with a crisis further south, the old Slanter was confused. He had heard war stories from the Slanter Scout Corps. The Enclave army was one of the most powerful in the world, having tamed all of Nevada and sweeping aside the NCR like it was nothing. If they had come to him now, it must have been dire. The old Slanter, along with his Scout Corps veterans, listened as the Army officers explained the situation and the divide. Right now, America needs its smallest members. Well, we've already needed them before. Alright, Flashpoint. Our captain has reported she circled the waters for several days, as has the Chinese fleet. Robocode translator is acting a bit buggy, but for the most part can translate what we need. The language barrier hasn't eased tensions with any, and with many within our expedition getting anxious of a sneak attack, observers report of crewmen running around on their decks, possibly preparing weapons. Our captain's requesting on what exactly we want to convey to the Chinese fleet. Broadcast peaceful intentions now. Peace can change. Let me read this. Yeah, peace can change. As she continued to converse with the Chinese ships, they agreed to come alongside. For the first time in 200 years, the descendant of the Shi Hongyi Ti looked upon their fellows, who are as equally perplexed to see Chinese members alongside the American crew. After several emotional moments from the Shi, the commander of the Chinese ship approached our captain. With the Shi translating, we were able to transcribe into the holotape. Greetings from the Democratic People's Empire of China. We are pleased to see you have survived the great mistake. After a few awkward gestures of bow and handshakes, as well as discovering both of them and ourselves were about to open fire, the delegation talking along through the night. They spoke of China's own vault program, the remnants of the Red Army, and even Mongolian raiders, but were far more interested in the Shi, whom they couldn't believe survived the great mistake. By daybreak, spirits remained high when a messenger from the Imperial House offered a treaty of peace and commerce on behalf of the People's Democratic Empire and for a desire of the Emperor to meet the President. Apparently, there is quite the market for Nuka-Cola in China nowadays. Wait till you try Sunset Sarsaparilla, or they can't be trusted. Prefer now. Wait till you try Sunset Sarsaparilla, a meeting of giants. Movement from the Deathclaw promontories. Several of our automated monitoring stations watch the intelligent Deathclaw broods and their promontories have reported movement. We've had to set them up to ensure the processes of heavily armed citizens don't go, or posses of heavily armed citizens don't go in and get slaughtered, and that the intelligence broods don't come out looking to prowl the settlement for a late night snack. Several of the larger promontories have been leaving signs and other things for us, and today a few representatives from the State Department went to ask what was going on. It seems that some of the younger Deathclaws and some of the more mature ones have been touched by our generosity, as in they want to fight for us. Much like we are reclaiming our nation bit by bit, the Deathclaws want to retake their homes in the Midwest and get back at Chicago for what they've done to them. A few military commanders caught wind of this and have to admit that having support units of intelligent Deathclaws that aren't savage and know who is an enemy and who isn't would be a net benefit on the battlefield. Deathclaws were once designed as living bioweapons for combat in close urban centers against China pre-war. The Army is actually run some tests to see if they can work and coordinate with ground forces. Named it Project Jackson, or if they come in peace, they stay in peace. No. Name it in Project Jackson. I like it. I'm hoping they come up on here. We should get maybe these ones. I hope it opens up these ones. Yes, economic research, great. Yeah, some people were talking about this. You can only get these through like certain events, and only certain countries can get them. So that's why we haven't got any of the creatures. A meeting of man and mutant. What they were asking was a tall order, even for FEV mutants. 3 tunneler creatures seemed fierce. For his part, Earl Olsen was invited to New Reno to personally meet with President Granite. The first time since the two signed the Unification Treaty. Granite welcomed the old Slanter warmly, giving the Slanter every report he personally had received, and the old Slanter looked over it with some concern. These things, they were basically animals, and Pack could take down Deathclaws with ease. A monster of Slanter's legend was nothing but an afternoon hunt for the things. He also read the casualty reports and sat back in his chair. Rel Olson cast his eyes over the U.S. flag that Granite had in the corner. Several of his own kin had been killed in the operation in the past few years, some fighting side by side with the humans who had brought them in. Rel Olson thought back to the day they arrived at the burrows and extended a welcoming hand. He also remembered when the first unit of the Scout Corps was sent to war and the growing praise that was delivered to him from their actions. Stealing his resolve, he would help the country that had brought him in and welcome him to their nation. Standing on his chair, mostly to be eye level with Granite, Rel Olson agreed that the Slanter Scout Corps would do everything in their power to assist in defeating the crisis. I know I made the right decision accepting you guys. Of course we did. Mr. Handy divisions. Light, light, heavy, heavy, heavy. Not sure what you all need for the heavy robots, or if these are considered. Excuse me. I'm not sure if these are considered heavy robots or combat robots. Probably combat robots. The Slanters reached the divide. The first Slanters arrived at the perimeter within hours, delivered by vertibird. Their small size allowed several dozen to be delivered in just a single bird. While some were raw recruits, the vast bulk of them were veterans of the Enclave Wars and Raider pacification campaigns. Receiving their briefing, the mutated raccoons got to work making their way towards the base. At the same time, the ground commander, accepting but skeptical, the Slanters had been working, setting up a series of modified armored vehicles with floodlights to try and reach the breach. The Slanter Major thanked the ground commander before setting off with the rest of his troops. I trust them; they'll get the job done. Of course they will. They've never gave us a reason not to doubt them. Oh, the divide's no longer a part of us. The meeting of giants. The Navy expended nothing escorting the president to Hawaii, where the meeting was agreed to take place. With the largest and most decorated ships of the fleet, the president rode in ease and comfort aboard, further guarded by Secret Service, Marines, and Army Rangers. Upon arrival on Marine One, Granite's vertibird was made with fanfare by King, or was met with fanfare by King Kamehameha the 21st, who likewise was honored to meet the President of the United States. Within hours of arriving, the Chinese fleet was sighted. While most of their ships were not as impressive as their American counterpart, save for one, this centerpiece, a massive aircraft carrier, King Kamehameha the 21st noted to the President that the Emperor's personal ship, indicating the Emperor had been to Hawaii before. As it docked in Pearl Harbor, Americans lined up to meet the Chinese, who disembarked, drums beating as the precision led up to a single floating platform that held what could only be assumed was the Chinese Emperor. As the floating chair came down, it halted before the President and the Hawaiian King. Stepping off, Granite was amazed to see a ghoul. Standing several inches shorter and heavily accented English, the ghoul spoke. Greetings, I am the Emperor Hongdi of the Democratic People's Empire of China. On behalf of the reunited States of America, it's an honor. Gets event Fate of the Dragon. Fate of the Dragon. Aside customary greetings and various photo ops for both the American and Chinese press, the two sat down for a luau hosted by by the Hawaiian King. Granite and Hongdae spent most of their time speaking to the history of their two countries. While Granite was sure to avoid some of the darkest secrets, Hongdae seemed enthralled by the story of how America reunited under the Stars and Stripes and seemed intrigued about the concept of super mutants. Conversely, the People's Republic never recovered. Their own vault programs were meant to provide for the war effort rather than allow for survival of the nuclear holocaust. However, the CCP Master Vault was destroyed by marauding U.S. military remnants. Thus, the vaults were left to themselves, and for 150 years were separate kingdoms under their own rule. It wasn't until 2243 that an effort by the greatest vaults attempted to reunite China to restore it to its former glory. Marrying new and old, the Democratic People Empire of China was born from the ashes of the old world as something more. Suffice to say, when his trade ship reported seeing vessels flying the Stars and Stripes, he was quite worried about opening old wounds that could see the world destroyed again. Upon receiving peaceful overtures, however, he's glad America is coming to a new world, a better country, and not a land of genocidal maniacs stuck in the past, locked in the views of the old world. America has learned from the war, so help me if anyone mentions the Enclave. Gets event the end of the war. The end of the war, as stories and meals come to an end, the main event comes upon everyone. With the Great War was an epic event that saw the death of billions, the destruction of cultures, and the unmitigated eradication of nearly every species. The end seemed so trivial. Simple paper was simple text stating that the United States and China ceased hostilities, wishing to begin a new era of peace. The event was too far in the past to assign blame, and at this point, what does it even matter? All the emperor prepares his own, or as the emperor prepares his own pen, Grant looks down at the paper and reflects on the events that had happened and the events to come. The Great War, the great mistake, is over. Of course, it'll need to be ratified by Congress. Gets the event the end of the Great War. With the stroke of a pen, the Chinese emperor and the American president entered a century of conflict and the 200 years of destruction it wrought. Cheers went up among Americans, Chinese, and Hawaiian members of the crowd, though to some the movement seemed bittersweet. While hostilities are over, it also seems pointless in the modern day. From the Mongols, raiders plagued the waste of the Gobi, or the super mutant cannibal forest of Oregon, the idea of peace seems superfluous. The Great War lasted just 2 hours, obliterated the earth, and neither China nor the U.S. has been at war with each other ever since. Yet, as the president and emperor shake hands for the cameras, one can't help but feel hope for returning to a civilization, a return to stability, and that the two greatest powers of the old world could just maybe make something anew. We won't know unless we try. Yet peace in our time, which grants stability plus 5%, gets event mainstream USA and China, or gets the result of the Great War. Mainstream USA and China. So as the festivities continue, the question again comes up about the American forces in China. After some talks, it became clear that most of the armed forces devolved into raiders that died off over the years or perished in a desperate attempt to return home. All others intrigued with the Chinese or their Chinese counterparts over the centuries. However, the center of all American activity in China, Shanghai, maintained a sizable American president and culture not unlike San Francisco. Over the years, the descendants built mirror images of the United States, represented its pre-war ideals, all the while meddling with Chinese culture. Already many Americans are eager to visit the city, and many other Chinese delegations are just as eager to see San Francisco. Interesting. Whispers of Hope. We've seen this before, so we'll just take the 100 political power and 5% stability. Very nice. The last time I played this, I just killed them off, and everybody was mad. And I agree. I don't think I should have done that. Mutant versus mutant. The Slanters have made contact with the tunnelers. At first, the mutated humanoids didn't know what to make of the furry FEV raccoons. They observed the little fuzzy creatures with confusion before the Slanters struck. Operating in small unit tactics, the Slanters took down several within the base before the tunnelers finally recognized them as a threat. While the Slanters took some casualty, a mix of their own military tactics and old hunting tricks kept them relatively light. What more, the tunnelers weren't even safe when they tried to dig underground, with the burrowing Slanters following them into their holes and striking them on their own turf. Seismic centers are picking up what can only be described as small, localized explosions, like the Slanters using grenades and other explosions to try to root these things out. Tenacious little beast, aren't they? Let's go, my Slanter cores, let's go. The Navarro Underground. On the surface, Navarro was simply a vertebrate revealing station. Underneath, it's a vast complex of scientific labs, armories, and repair shops that are the envy of anything in the wasteland. Sorry, made all the more impressive by the fact that it was secured by an advanced series of teleporters. However, during the siege of Navarro, we were forced to sabotage the network to keep the NCR and Brotherhood out. Seems the Brotherhood fixed a few things but utterly destroyed it when relations with the NCR went south. Technicians have stated that the network is beyond repair, since access to the main power system as well as other teleporter pads are near impossible to get to assess their damage. Thankfully, we have access to the schematics thanks to a few enterprising individuals who took them when we fled all those years ago. Not so thankfully, that means we'll have to do it the hard way. There's nothing easy. Army experience, production efficiency growth. Start going down this. And we finished with all of our construction on that. Something happened during a resupply, reinforcement, and evacuation run. One of our pilots noted that the Slanters had captured several of the large brutes and were apparently trying to ride the things like like wild Brahmin at a rodeo. When asked for the reason for this insubordination, the Slanter major calmly replied that his troops were taking some initiative and tactics and applying the U.S. Army spirit of innovation. He explained that the tunnelers are no different than any other mutated horrors they had encountered in the past. If they can be tamed, they can be used. He pointed to how the Slanters had tamed giant mole rats in the past as beasts of burden, and these tunnelers were just scaly humanoid versions of them. If they could tame at least a few, they might be able to create a sort of cavalry corps and handle the rest. The ground commander had reported the plan was crazy, but crazy enough it might just work. What? I do want to do something while we're sitting here. Can't build them. Can only build level 1s. Air bases. We're gonna move a lot of planes down, so. At some point, we're just going to have our entire land just completely done with all this infrastructure. Something I had not told you all yet, while I'm sitting here clicking through all this, and you guys are just happening to watch me click through it. I do plan on streaming here. Maybe today at some point or later in the evening. I am planning on streaming some Hearts of Iron 4 just for maybe a few hours, just to see how you guys like it. I've streamed once or twice before, but I'm going to give it another shot and see how I like doing it. If it's something I'm interested in continuing to do. But I figured you guys might enjoy seeing a Hearts of Iron 4 stream for a little bit, maybe a few hours. But yeah, just, you know, if you guys are watching this and you've gotten this far and you're interested in that, let me know in the comments, because I plan on playing maybe some cavalry Redux. Cavalry Redux can be very fun. Alright, that's enough of that clicking for now. Boats, can't do nothing for my Air Force. We do have a massive Air Force right now. And I really need to get them all moved up. Project Jackson was a success. Woo, woo, woo. Project Jackson was a success. Project Jackson has been nothing but a success. Sure, there was some talks that Deathclaws were trying to scope us out and find our taxes, but usually when it comes to the feral Deathclaw hovels, we just airstrike them, so it was kind of a moot point. In close quarter combats, the Deathclaws were instrumental in assisting our units in clearing out simulated targets. Their thick armored hides, deflecting rounds and lasers as they closed in on our target after target. The army even got around to designing rudimentary armor for them, which was increased their effectiveness tenfold. The real success came during a live fire exercise against a hovel of raiders that had taken up residence in one of the mock settlements we had set up. Attempts to remove them peacefully resulted in them taking pot shots at us. Normally we'd hit the area with an airstrike, but instead used it to test the new Deathclaw units. The armored pack broke into their defenses at night under cover fire from army units and raised hell. Their speed, agility, and lethality were second to none as they tore the raiders apart and left none standing. They even planted a U.S. flag in the village to signify their victory. We put out a call to the promontories for additional volunteers for the new Deathclaw Auxiliary, and more than a few have eagerly enlisted. We add technology: Deathclaw, hatchlings, nest, civilization, basic creature tech, intermediate creature tech, and sophisticated creatures tech. Ooh. That might mean, after I just had said that, that might mean that we can get all of those. Oh, no. Well, we can do young Deathclaws at least. We can do alpha Deathclaws. Legendary Deathclaws? Okay, alright. This is big. This is big once we open it up. Lincoln Air Force Base? My lord. Situation between Omaha and Nebraska City, Nebraska. UFA Air Force Base was one of the very few bases in the United States that had a major air command directly headquartered in it. In the case of UFA, the air command was Strategic Air Command. Aside from being home to Strategic Air Command headquarters, the installation was also another preview of the Air Combat Command and had several wings of Aerospace Defense Command on site due to the base's importance to the Air Force. OFUT served primarily as a strategic bomber base, but also held several close air support aircraft and wings of the Aerospace Defense Command. With B-54 bombers ordered to be ready around the clock, this wasn't merely because of Strategic Air Command, but based on history due to OFUT historically being where all nuclear bombs were first taken from and then dropped from. From Hiroshima to Nagasaki to Pyongyang to along the Chinese front in Korea during the First Korean War, Ofut was a source of pride from the servicemen and servicewomen of the Air Force and painted a tempting target on the base's back, even more so when one takes into account Ofut Nuclear Activity Center. Ofut Nuclear Activity Center was in charge of not only the stowage of nuclear ordnance, but was in charge of dispatching bomb orders to stay in and all B-54 globally. Though Barksdale was where the strategic bombers of the Air Force was kept track from, Ofut was where the orders were issued. Also on site at Ofut Nuclear Activity was an air plant for the exclusive production of B-54 bombers and the Atom Silo Field, a large field of nuclear missile silos capable of striking deep into the heart of the Soviet Union and across mainland China. Given Ofut's importance as an installation to our triad and to the Air Force, it seems too little surprise when the bombs hit the installation. Although Strategic Air Command officials would try to escape the installation for Cornhusker Army ammunition plant, they would be stopped by the missiles slamming into the base as Ofut's own missiles launched for China. In the aftermath of the Great War, the installation came under the control of the Lincoln Compact, who were a group wishing to restore the state of Nebraska. The group largely avoided the base due to it being overrun by the Glowing Ones and other numerous feral ghouls wearing weird-looking armor, which was likely Air Force pilot gear. With the Lincoln Compact having been removed from the outskirts of Ofut, Army forces moved in quickly in conjunction with the Air Force vertebrates to remove the Glowing Ones and the Ferals at the installation. It took a couple of months, but with the Feral Ghouls and the Glowing Ones removed, we've been able to restore Ofut Air Force Base back to active duty. Although we've been forced to dispatch Environmental Protection Agency to the old Strategic Air Command HQ site on the base due to the little crater where the HQ once was being heavily irradiated, more so compared to the Ofut Nuclear Activity Center, which took only a few weeks to clear for a safe use. Given the damage dealt to the site, Nuclear Operations Defense Command is certainly going to have its hands full when they get out here, though the Environmental Protection Agency is optimistic that in a few years, Strategic Air Command should be able to come back to its old headquarters, provided everything moves on schedule. The Rolling Thunder returns to Ofut Air Force Base, gives a boost to H Generation and Air Attack. Boy, that was a mouthful. Never a dull moment in the Divide. The perimeter guards around the base were given over to quite a sight this morning. The Slanter's party we sent to the Divide came out riding several of the tunnelers with crude riding gear and blinders fashioned around the tunnelers' eyes. They were lined up in formation with the major at the front, holding a small guidon that the groups had fashioned. Suffice to say, their human comrades loved the sight, as did the ground commander, who was not shy in singing the praises of the Slanters. In short, the crazy little mutants' plan worked, and they were even performing a mock cavalry charge to show they know what they were doing. The press apparently picked up on this, and support for the Slanter Cavalry Corps is growing among the populace. Rolorson has sent his best, sent all of his species' best tamers to the base, and they are expected to arrive by vertibird within the hour. It's too early. Where's my coffee? Can you imagine just waking up? You're the president, right? You wake up, open up the door in a newspaper, you see a Slanter mounted on the back of a tunneler, and you're like, nope, close the newspaper up. With reinforcements, the Slanter plan is simple: a dedicated thrust toward the breach site and down in the depths of the tunnelers' hives. From there, the Slanters will capture as many tunnelers as possible, and their beast tamers will get to work breaking these monsters in. Resistance is expected, and the Slanters have broken in, have been armored up, and given additional blinders to hide the fact they are assaulting their own. The noses have also been plugged to prevent them from smelling if these things give off pheromones. At dawn, the Slanter cavalry rode off towards the base as regular soldiers looked on and cheered. Vertibird gunships covered them overhead as the Slanters charged Guidon out into the base. Transporters carrying the beast tamers followed close behind, ready to deploy at the breach site. First resistance was met halfway between the gate and the breach. The Slanter's new breach of burden proved instrumental in defeating their former species. Blind in sight and smell, when they were attacked by their former kin, they flew into a rage, slaughtering their unarmored, undomesticated selves. Their Slanter riders assisted where they could and made rapid progress towards the breach. Arriving at the breach in a flying V formation, the Slanters drove into the breach. Beast Tamers and an additional company of Slanter scouts deployed and ready to assist. However, everything rests on the Major and his troops. At once they're underground, will be unable to support. Godspeed, Slanters. I really wish we could have a Slanter general, but that's not something you can get that I know of. So, very sad. See, you're about done researching, and you're also about done researching. So. Radioactive materially confirmed. That has came up multiple times, so we'll do feral ghoul removal here, because it's cheap. We'll do the most expensive one, which is this one, 300. Oh, wipe out the compensator. We'll just do that one. whip out or whatever. The result of the Great War, ever since the treaty with China, scholars and historians look documents the events leading to this day, as well as learning whatever we could about the Democratic People Empire of China, in that they are not the People's Republic of China. While they trace their lineage, culture, infrastructure, and even elements of the governments from the People's Republic, they are different. Most obvious is the fact that they have an emperor, along with some of the feudal style of leadership that ran out of the versions of vaults, which apparently are 3 times as big as ours, as even our largest vault. With all that being said, we've come to a single conclusion. Go on. We technically won. Being the People's Republic of China was destroyed in the Great War and the Chinese Communist Party was destroyed by marauding U.S. forces, they didn't survive. Therein, the United States government, in the form of the Enclave on the oil rings, survived the Great War and returned to reforge the United States and the mainland. Thus, being the PRC ceased to exist, and the United States continued unbroken through the Enclave. We won the Great War, also known as World War III. Hooray! We won, but at what cost? Grants daily political power negative -0.02 and generate war tension limit -2%, or back to back World War back to back World War champs. We get weekly war support plus 2%, justify wartime gold -2%. I'm just gonna do that one because I want the weekly war support. So USA, USA, USA. We might have destroyed ourselves in the process, but we managed to take another W. So, what was I doing? Oh, creatures. Young Death Claws. Please and thank you. Sentry bots. Part 2. And Great War APCs. Build less of these guys, and in turn, are they in here? Trying to find the, I guess it's not a buildable thing. I thought it would be a buildable thing, but I guess not. So we'll just stop with the wasteland callers altogether. You still building these guys up. All right. A lot of robots. Not a lot of tanks, but it's a lot of robots. And creatures. We'll start researching this. I thought these were producible. I guess we can not produce them yet. If I train it, what do I need? Oh, I need to actually produce Death Claws. But yeah, I don't see them on here. Am I blind? Or is it an outdated? It's not outdated. I don't know, maybe you just need actual Death Claws that we're researching. No longer get old world computers, that makes sense. Let's see, we could, for all of our factories, get that. Nah, not really worried. Nothing to report. We hope they're okay. It's been several days, no words from the Slanters underground. Our seismic monitors are picking up activity, so we know they're alive down there. However, what's more interesting is the reaction of the rest of the country to the little mutants' action in the divide. The Slanters, while protected under treaty as equals in the United States, this doesn't mean the common citizens see them as equals. Many critics have questioned the purpose and effectiveness of the Slanter Scout Corps, with more hardline views eliminating the army of non-human mutants. The image of the tiny Slanters fighting the tunnelers valiantly, as well as the cavalry charge against Hopeville, silenced them and invigorated a wave of public support for the little creatures. Pictures of the charges are front pages of every newspaper, and the Burrows itself is in a patriotic uproar at the sight of their scouts' display of gallantry. Granite himself traveled the Burrows and met again with Raul Olsen, personally thanking him for his species' contribution to the military. the nation, and the United States, people as a whole, of whom they stand as equal no more than ever. Yet, for all the fanfare, little word has come from the breach, and it is unknown if the Slanters are scattered or being slaughtered or advancing deeper into the hive. I'm sure they're doing fine, I hope. Scavengers return in triumph. We get research bonus plus 50 for, or times 50% for one vehicle technology. Very nice. How to hunt Mirelurks doesn't really matter for us. Restore the wasteland. Get a little bit more water. Power up all the power grids. Restore Navarro's defenses. Production efficiency growth. We'll do that instead of the training center, which the army experience gain would be nice for 5%, where production efficiency growth is very, very nice. Especially because I keep having to change my stuff, so. Building stuff quite fast, so really if we wanted to, we could build I think that's the only one we needed was fabrications. So yeah, let's build some of those. The fate of the Slanters. We received word from the Slanters from the base. 2 messengers rode up to the perimeter this morning, requesting additional reinforcements, supplies, as well as radios to communicate with the surface. The lead messenger, a Slanter lieutenant, reported that the tunnels beneath are large and expansive, and that the Slanters are operating in unknown territory and don't know how large the tunnels are. They've established base camp in one of the largest nests, as well as a basic aid station, but their supplies are running short. The ground commander sent the request up the chain, and supplies are on their way. Additionally, an entire battalion has been dispatched from the burrows, many of whom being veterans of the scouts across the army. At the very least, we know our mutant troops are advancing underneath, which is a welcome word to what has become a national spectacle. Ha! Knew they'd be fine. Yes, 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 they're fine. Finished with this one. Doing the creatures right now. Let's just get our vehicles done. Let's see, compliance. February should be a 4. Navarro's arsenal's done. Do their airfield now. So you tell me none of these horrible? Oh no, it says 1 out of 1, so. Okay. That's all that matters then. This war is going to be incredibly bloody. Almost definitely bloody for us, just on the account that ours are mostly humans that are going to be fighting, while Santa Ana's are a majority robots. So I'm hoping our units are good enough to do this. Probably next episode, because I would like to continue just to be able to read stuff. I know I keep saying next episode, but I also have really a lot of fun with this. So I did want, when I get some army experience, to do some stuff. Might just give myself some army experience so I can build the things you guys would like to see. I'll do that off screen though. Give myself a couple hundred army experience. I know that's just so lovely to listen to when you're sitting there watching the video. The battle rages on below. Seismic activity has slowed in the past few days. The Slanters have been giving status updates saying that they've been traversing dozens of miles underneath the base, mapping out an extensive network of tunnels and nests. A recent development from one of the scout teams claimed they have stumbled onto a large nest completed with one of the largest tunnelers they have ever seen. The captain in charge of the platoon was forced to retreat given the resistance in numbers and has given a description of its size. We agree that our assessment that this thing is the queen, though we don't know if it's the only one or one of many. The major has reported they are preparing to storm the nest alongside with beast tamers with a plan to capture this thing alive. The operation is set to commence in the evening. Wait, how large? It's big. She a big mama. Continue on building infrastructure. I'm not gonna lie, with all this infrastructure, we should have plenty of resources when it matters. So. Oh, that's such an annoying noise. I know you guys are probably like, gross, but gotta build stuff. I'll even help our Canadian brothers out. Everybody's gonna get unlimited infrastructure. It'll be us, Canada. Whoever up here needs it, you're getting it. I did send some equipment up to Canada at the beginning of the episode. It wasn't nothing big because some of their units weren't fully equipped, which I thought was kind of weird. But we fully equipped them. And we'll do the same for Mexico. I don't really know what Mexico needs to build more. I've looked, and they don't seem to be needing anything. But they're also not building units, which the AI will build units if it has the necessary things for them, so they're probably missing something somewhere, but I'm not sure what they're missing, to be 100% honest. So that's everywhere. Cool. Well, we did go up to 100% legitimacy from that, so very nice. Nuclear power systems, advanced power systems. Reduce the autonomy. Oh. No, I'm not going to annex them. It kind of defeat the purpose of what I'm doing right now. I will send them some I don't know what they need. Said only 86% of their units deployed have enough whatever they need. Navarro's airfield. Do their hangar. They must need something in their infantry groups. A new dawn over the divide this morning. Our troops were greeted by the victorious Slanters riding out of the base, and with them was a surprising sight. With a bugle call of reveille, the victorious troops of the Slanters rode out in formation, much to the cheers of the troops on the perimeter. What's more, the crazy mutants did it, tied up between them, and with 3 beast tamers keeping it under control, is the largest tunneler we've ever seen. They've also had several more of the creatures tied together in a mass herd. The Slanter Major, a little worse for wear, rode up and saluted the ground commander, presenting him the tunneler's queen. The ground commander reports a joint one with the Slanter Major has called the operation a huge success, and the base has been more or less secured. Anyone else want to question if the Slanters was a bad idea? Of course they weren't a bad idea. Fire teams, demo, anti-tank, and logistics. Let's see. Probably demo that you all are needed. Dynamite, yeah. You have frag grenades. I know it's not pistols, so you guys get a bunch of rifles. Maybe logistics? You have sport. I don't know what they need that is causing them not to be fully 100%. See, Canada's 99%. I'm 100% fully supplied, so Who knows? Hopeville's restored. Regular forces moved in not long after, supported by gunships and the Slanters with their new tunneler mounts. The Slanter Major has reported that several sweeps and kill teams are still operating underneath the base, looking for any remaining tunnelers that still lurk below. Preparations to move the tunneler queen off to the burrows are being made, as well as further tame the creature tunnelers, with the Slanter Major opinion that with the queen's breeding ability, they could breed large numbers of the tunnelers for a new Slanter cavalry corps. While in orthodoxy cannot be understated, the effectiveness and speed with which the Slanters operated in the operation, recommendations for awards and honors are already being pressed up command for review, despite initial reservations from generals and even the press for use of the Slanters Corps in the operation. It cannot be understated that the fact they were instrumental in securing the base for the mutants. So, good, get me roll Olsen. I think if the mod creator ever does see this video, it would be really, really cool if after this you would allow us to have a Slanter general like that major, promote him up, and we could have him, but no, it's okay if not. The President and their mutants, granted, paid visit to the Divide today to personally thank the Slanters for the actions in the Divide. The Slanter troops stood in formation for the President's pass and review. While many were wounded and their uniforms weren't in the best shape, all showed up to be in formation for the President and stood tall and proud, even if they did only come up to Granite's knees. After conducting his review, Granite gave an impassioned speech to the formation, saying how the Slanters had showed themselves as above equals to their humanoid counterparts in the military, and that their contribution in the past few days will not be forgotten but remembered for years to come. Let no one ever speak ill of the Slanter Scout Corps, that the Slanter soldiers are not equal to that of human infantry. When your nation called upon you, you answered with a spirit and bravery befitting the American soldier, to face certain death only to laugh in its face. Let none forget that you met your abominable foe and not only defeated it, but took command of it as a human would a Brahmin. Today I stand before you, a man before giants, with your actions keeping with the finest traditions of the United States military. America will remember what the Slanter Corps did here in the Divide. I thank you. Your nation thanks you. May God bless America, and may God bless the Slanters. God bless the Slanters, and God bless America. Birth of the Tunnels. Oh, you do get them. I stand corrected. My bad. Birth of the Tunnels. Operations are returning to normal at base. Seismic activity hasn't picked up anything aside the roaming patrols of Slanters deep underground. The ground operation commander has given the all clear, and non-combat personnel are beginning to return. This by special presidential decree, Granite has awarded the former tunneler hive to be a second Slanter burrow, and already several families from the boroughs in Nevada have signed up to move to the Mojave. The tunnels, as they are now called, have become a mix of New Slanter City and America's first military installation given over to the Slanters Corps, as well as a newly commissioned Slanter Cavalry Corps. The civilian population of the surrounding towns and settlements have returned as well, welcoming the victorious Slanters with open arms for their contributions in securing the Divide. We've even noticed an additional caravan traffic increase from the Slanters, increasing trade in the region as well. The former ground commander, now installation commander, has given the all clear, and the base is now secure. It's the American dream. The major becomes a unit leader. The birth of the Slanter Cavalry Corps. The tactics and techniques that the Slanters have developed during the fight in the Divide have been solidified into new doctrine. While the Slanters have proven invaluable as scouts, their small size often causes them to cover less ground than humans in vehicles or even air recon. With their new mounts, the Slanters are able to cover terrain just as fast as any vehicle, and they're even engaged in combat against foes thanks to the ferocity of their mounts. While it takes some time to get their breeding program up, the Army is looking forward to deploying their new cavalry across the wasteland. Gains technology, Slanter Cavalry Tech, Moto Expere et Destindos. Production. Slanter Cavalry equipment. To the top. 10. 10. As much as we possibly can. With the artillery. Don't need as much as this. We really don't need as much marine armor. Horses we've got a lot of. Organ armor, we're good on building. There we go. Alright. Our little Slanters will start to form our cavalry corps. Again, once I have all of the necessary army experience, which we're not getting a lot of, so I might actually come in here. Where one of you... Oh, I have to get rid of you, don't I? I like the research speed, but I really don't need it. I think I have to get rid of my air guy for... Army experience gain. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe maybe I'm just overlooking it there. The hopeless endeavor. The endeavor was a hopeless one, though the United States has access to some of the most advanced technology in the wasteland. It was a daunting task. Two of the chief researchers plucked away at a terminal. Across from them sat an imposing figure, a super mutant scientist known for his calm demeanor and sharp intellect. We've tested everything, one of the human scientists said, frustrated. There's no getting around it. It's there. The super mutant scientist frowned. If we cannot reverse the alterations caused by the virus, then we're fighting an uphill battle with no solution. For a moment, the room fell into silence. The hopelessness of the research was beginning to sink in, until the second human scientist, flipping through some old files, suddenly stopped. His eyes widened as he scanned a particular document. Wait a second, he muttered, drawing the attention of his colleague. The Slanters, they're not sterile. They can reproduce. See? I told you all. I said they're super mutants, and they're not sterile. The revelation hung in the air, hitting them like a bucket of cold water. The scientists exchanged stunned glances. It never occurred to them to look at the Slanters as an exception to the rule. The Slanters are super mutants, but they didn't lose their reproduction abilities, and this is a breakthrough, the first scientist said slowly, realization drawing. The super mutant scientist's eyes widened, a spark of hope flickering in the depths of his usually stoic expressions. If the Slanters can reproduce, then maybe there's something in their mutation process that can be applied to us. For this first time in what felt like an eternity, the impossibility seemed possible. The room buzzed with a newfound energy as the three of them poured over the data, eager to unveil their new mystery, and perhaps for the first time offer a future to the super mutants. Oh. Do the M4A5 Carmine, just have it be able to be produced. Ooh. Sentry Bark Mark II. That's done with our research for them. The next episode we'll get Death Claws. Very, very, very cool. Let's get us some better reconnaissance. Alright, with that, I'm going to end the episode because it went a little long. We'll clean up the nuclear waste here. But I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.